Okay, hola. Today we are going to review present tense regular verb conjugations. So, ¿cómo estás? All right, so we need to first make sure that you remember what your pronouns are. And we learned those already, but here we go. Let's go ahead and review. They're going to come in handy for this topic, so let's review. So this is the chart. Whenever you want to talk about yourself, you use the yo form. Yo is I. Tu is you, familiar. That's the form that you would use when you talk to like a friend of yours. The bottom left shares three subject pronouns. Él, which is he, ella, she, and usted is the yo formal. You formal, sorry. That is the form that you would use when you were to talk directly to like somebody of respect, a Mr. or Mrs. This is the singular side of the chart. The right side of the chart is the plural side. So nosotros or nosotras is we, vosotros or vosotras is you all, and that's commonly used in Spain. Ellos or ellas means they. Ellos would be for like a group of boys. Ellas, a group of girls. Ellos would be a mixture of boys and girls. And then ustedes is the pronoun you would use when you want to talk to a group of people you need to show respect to, like with Mr. and Mrs. These are going to come in handy when we learn how to conjugate. So now for the verbs. In Spanish, verbs are classified into three types. Verbs that end in AR, like hablar, is one classification because they're called AR verbs. Hablar means to speak or talk. Verbs that end in ER, like comer means to eat. That's another type of verb. They end in ER. And then verbs that end in IR, like vivir, which means to live, would be the third type of group. So we have AR verbs, ER, and IR verbs. We're going to learn how to conjugate verbs in the present tense. Conjugate is what you do to the verb to make it agree/match the subject. You do this in English without even thinking. You say I eat, but you change the eat when you say he eats. So we'll be starting with the present tense. This will be used to talk about what is happening right now. To conjugate a verb, you need to know a couple of definitions. You need to know what an infinitive is. This is a verb in the most basic form. In Spanish, they are easy to spot because they end in AR, ER, or IR. They always translate to be to do something. Like, for example, hablar means to speak. The stem. This is the infinitive with the AR, ER, or IR removed. So if we were to remove this AR here, you just have habl. That's considered a stem. See, habl is a stem of hablar. We're ready to start conjugating. So let's start with the verbs that end with AR. The first step is to find the stem of the verb. Remember, you just remove the AR. The next step is to add the new endings. And this is the fun part. So once you remove the AR, these are the endings for AR verbs. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. So then what you do with the endings is you attach them to your stem. So we attached here, our stem was habl. Remember, we got rid of the AR. And so now we attach our O. And we get hablo. Hablo means I speak. Let me keep up with what I'm talking about. Or I speak or I talk. Hablas is you talk or you speak. He or she or you formal talk is habla. Hablamos, we talk. Habláis, you all talk. And then hablan, they talk or you all talk. We're going to do the same thing with ER verbs, except now you need to learn new endings. But they're very similar, though. Remember to start with the stem and then add the ER endings. So if we were to take the verb comer ends with, comer is an ER verb. These are the ER endings. You just take all the A's away and replace them with E's. And the verb for practice today is beber. Beber is to drink. So you get rid of the ER and you put O. Bebo. Bebo is I drink. Bebes is you drink. Bebe, he, she, you formal drink. Bebemos, we drink. Bebéis, you all drink. And beben is they drink or you all drink. Then we have IR verbs. The last verb ending to learn are the IR verbs. It's the same process. Add the new endings to the stem of the verb. You will notice that these are almost the same as ER. As the ER endings. There's just two that are different, and that would be the top right and the middle right. So here are the IR endings. O, es, a, imos, is, en. And the verb to practice is escribir. Escribir is to write. So escribo is I write. Escribes, you write. Escribe, he, she, you, formal write. Escribimos, we write. Escribís, you all write. And escriben, they write, or you all write, formal. All right, so now we're going to pause and I'm going to have you practice conjugating with this crossword. And so the verb in parentheses is what you would need to conjugate into the correct form. So go ahead and grab your paper, go ahead and practice, and then when you're ready, you can check your answers, which are on this next slide. But do not advance and look at the answers until you practiced on your own first. And here are the answers. So go ahead and check and see how you did. All right. Let's go ahead and keep going. There's one more thing I need to talk to you about. These are the endings for regular verbs in the present tense. There's also stem changing verbs and irregular verbs that don't follow the patterns that we need to review. So these are just the endings that we just reviewed and you just practiced with your worksheet. So now we're going to take these endings and we are going to apply them to new types of verbs, stem changing verbs. All right, so what are stem changing verbs, or we also call them boot verbs? A stem changing verb is a verb in which there's a change in the stem in all but the nosotros and vosotros forms. With regular verbs, the stem stays the same and you add the new endings to match the subject. Remember that the stem is the verb with the AR, ER, IR ending removed. So remember the stem of hablar is hab, comer, com, escribir, escribe. And so we just practiced regular verbs. If you hopefully remember that, here's your conjugation of hablar. O hablo, hablas, habla. Hablamos, habláis, hablan. With some verbs, you're going to need to change the stem when you conjugate them. In the present tense, there are 3 types of stem changing verbs. There's O to UE, E to IE, and E to I. Stem changing verbs are also called boot verbs because only the forms in the boot have the stem change. We'll come back to this in a bit, but so you can kind of see the black boot in here. So when we're conjugating verbs in these forms, we're going to make a little change. Outside the boot, there's no stem change that's going to happen. All right, so let's look at O to UE stem changing first. The letter O will change to UE in all forms except the nosotros and vosotros. This is where the boot comes in. Think of a boot. You only make the change in the forms that fall in the boot. Here's the visual again right here. Here are some examples. Dormir means to sleep. And if you look at the conjugation, in the yo form, the O changes to UE. So yo duermo. Yo duermo means I sleep. Oops. Tú duermes. Él duerme. Ella duerme, usted duerme. Then the next two, the stem does not change from O to UE. It stays as an O because it's outside of the boot. So you have nosotros dormimos, vosotros dormís, ellos, ellas, ustedes duermen. You'll need to remember which verbs are stem changing verbs, but there's a list of common O to UE stem changers. Here's another one. Volar means to fly. And so look at its conjugation. Vuelo, vuelas, vuela. Volamos, voláis, vuelan. You put the AR verb endings and you remember to change the O to UE inside of the boot. Here's a whole list of verbs that are O to UE. And so if you want to pause and take some notes, and so you can try to learn these as vocabulary words as well. It's the same concept for E to IE stem changing verbs. Here's a list of common E to IE verbs, and here's an example. Cerrar means to close. So inside the boot, we are going to change this E to IE. You get cierro, cierra, cierra. Cerramos, cerrar, cierran. I close, you close, he or she, we, you all, and they close. Here's a whole list of verbs that would change from E to IE inside of the boot. So go ahead again, pause and write these down and learn what they mean. So if you ever have to conjugate them in present tense, you will know what to do with them. The last group of verbs is the E to I. And here's a list of common E to I verbs right here, so you can write them down so you can learn them. And here's an example. The verb servir is our example today. And it is an IR verb, so we'll use IR endings, and we change the E to I. So you get sirvo, sirve, sirve. Servimos, servis, sirven. I serve, you serve, he or she, you formal serve, we, you all, and they serve. All right, so here are the endings again. Endings are very important to your verbs. You want to make sure they match up. AR verbs have AR endings, ER verbs, ER endings, and IR verbs, IR endings. Okay, so here is your practice on stem changing verbs. So if you could pause here and practice on your worksheet, and then I will give you your answers and you can check them and see how you did. Here are the answers if you want to see how you did. Hopefully you were able to fill them out correctly and check them and see. Make sure that your ending matches, like costa, number 1, la camisa cuesta. It's an AR verb, so make sure you have your A as the ending and that you changed the O to UE. Número 2, almuerzo. 3, prefieren. 4, quieren. 5, pide. 6, juega. 7, repites. 8 is servir. Servir, you don't have to conjugate in number 8 because it is within the phrase